Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, brought to you by our show partner Join Cycling for the recap of stage 14 of the Tour de France, one of the hardest mountain stages in the race, the hardest being Col de la Loze next week. But this is the hardest stage of week 2, 183 Ks from Pau to Luchon, Super Bagnères. And it's hard, 5,000 meters of elevation gain. They do the Tourmalet to start proceedings off, 19K, 7.5%. The Souvenir Godet at the top, descent. Then the Col d'Aspin, descent. Col de Beressoud, 7Ks, 8% descent. Luchon, Super Bagnères, 12.6Ks at 7.5%. It's actually 16Ks at like 7.5%. So, yeah, super long climb. And rainy, coldish conditions for summer, like people getting jackets at the top of the Tourmalet, very foggy, wet descents. You needed to be a mountain specialist today in all regards, not just uphill, but also downhill. Also, the valley's kind of crucial. Last night, Benji, do you want to remind people what did Pogačar say in the interview last night when he was asked, are you going to gift some stages to the break?
Well, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but it was along the lines of, I'm getting paid to win, so I will take victories, and I will not just give victories away. So that's the whole vibe. It was in response to probably an interview question, if I guessed, about, if you keep winning, will you hear greediness or something again from other riders, etc.? Yeah, there's going to be people complaining about greediness towards Pogačar if he keeps on winning mountain stages, but I'm sorry, but I've got no mercy for those teams and those riders. In week 1, there were multiple stages where we kept on hammering on the point of, if you go in the breakaway, you've got a potential chance to win from the breakaway. And in some of those stages, they didn't do it. I'm sorry, but if you don't take the chances that are breakaway stages or possibilities for breakaway stages, and then you hope to get a chance in a mountain breakaway, which before today, the last mountain breakaway is 2023 in the Tour de France, the one that made it. Because last year, not a single mountain breakaway won a stage, Patrick. Felix Gall on Col de la Loze.
On Super de Louis.
Yeah, that's true. That's not a mountain stage in my book. That's a hill stage. Come on.
Not sure about that, but it's borderline. Maybe you're right. Medium mountain. Yeah, medium mountain could be. Also looks like a pog
if
stage.
If we squint, it's a medium mountain stage,
exactly.
So then my stat's correct.
Yeah, 3,000 meters elevation. Today it was all about what UAE were going to do indeed. They were clearly set out to go for the stage. That was evident from the start. What UAE were doing was, so it's a 70 Ks of flat before the Tourmalet. Their strategy is no brake control on the flat.
Yeah. Zero
resources invested. Because Visma don't have a second GC threat that you need to worry about, and nobody really has. And then anybody apart from Vingegaard, if they get in the break, they'll be controlled by another team. So, meaning Vauquelin or somebody. But the gaps are so big now, no one's controlling anything. So what their idea is, say a break goes, even a break of 30, we'll just put Pollard on the front after spending no energy while everyone else has been sprinting each other for an hour. And then maybe we'll keep it at 3 minutes before the Tourmalet where we'll just peg it. And they didn't even need to do that, Benji, because the break never went.
Correct. The break never really went before the Tourmalet even started, and partially probably helped by the fact that an intermediate sprint was present before the Tourmalet, before the start of the Tourmalet, but I also felt like Little Trek was trying to jump with Skelmos, etc., and not necessarily trying to overly control it for Milan. So even that wasn't necessarily super controlled by Little Trek. It felt like the attacks that came neutralized other attacks, and then the break just never went. So we get towards the intermediate sprint. Jonathan Milan sprints to 20 points there, which 10 kilometers before that intermediate sprint, I expected someone else to take it, because it was a bit too chaotic for Jonathan Milan to maybe come out on top, but he does manage to do so, takes 20 points. I think Van der Poel came second in that, and Binyam Girmay third. At that same moment, in the group, in the peloton, Matthias Skelmose crashes quite hard, actually, and he ends up abandoning the race. So on one end, happy days for Milan taking 20 points. On the other end, Skelmose out of the race. Mixed feelings at Little Trek today. Shame to see Skelmose leave the race like that. But after that intermediate sprint is when we do get a breakaway up the road. And that breakaway starts existing out of the likes of Visma Leasebike, Kus and Yates are in that group. So two potential satellite riders, potential stage winners, depends on the strategy of Visma Leasebike in today's stage. Tobias Johannesson is the most dangerous rider in this breakaway. He's quite far behind towards Pogacar, but it might trigger another team in the top 10 to chase behind Johannesson. That is a possibility. Rodriguez and Arensman also in this breakaway. Mas, Mulberger and Rubio for Movistar, Paris-Bancher for Soudal Quickstep, Emil Verstringen climbing too well for Alpecin. He might get his contract disbanded because he's climbing so well. Ben O'Connor for Jayco, Plaza for Red Bull Bora, Higuita, the invisible man for Astana, Jordan Giga for Total Energy, Store for Tudor, and Michael Woods for IPT. So that is the breakaway of the day, which that's a strong breakaway. But if you then look at the response from UAE on the slopes, for some reason, by the way, I forgot to mention Lenny Martinez. He was also in that group. But for some reason, Patrick, if you look at the behavior from UAE in the peloton, how do they react to that breakaway forming from the foot of the Tourmalet?
Without controlling, they started pacing all out with Wellens from the bottom, which was kind of curious because it dropped. Like Narvaez had just taken a piss and he was on a split.
Yeah.
Pollitt is suffering on that pace, and they're pulling all out at the front of the peloton. They're closing Tudor. Like Tudor had 3 riders and they shot Tudor. I don't know why. And then they're just pacing all out with Wellens. The group is like 25. Remco drops. So Remco drops whilst Wellens is pacing all out at the bottom of the Tourmalet. This time he wouldn't come back. And then Wellens stops. Sivakov gets to the front. And then everyone's allowed into the break. It makes no sense. Like what UAE did at the bottom of the Tourmalet makes 0 sense. Because they put their own team under pressure. I thought it would have just been Pollitt starts the bottom of Tourmalet. He's going to ride 5.5 watts per kilo, 5.3, whatever. And it's just controlled. Instead, they like sped up and then slowed down, and then everyone got in the break. And yeah, like Visma got in with Kus and Yates, who probably weren't going to be allowed in. And they bridge across more Movistar, Enrique Mas, Sparta, Mulberger. It gets to be a reasonable sized break, but the break just never the break never got together and was an actual break at any point. It was really, they were signing their own death warrant, it looked like, because then Sivakov does start to set a pace. And at that moment, 101 k's to go, Ben O'Connor attacks full all out. I have no idea why. Like Movistar have 3. Ineos have Arensman and Rodriguez. Arensman's going to pull all day. I don't know where he's going. And
I don't know either.
you need to build up a buffer to UAE behind you. Lenny, I understand a little bit more because he's going for KOM points, not the stage. Still,
I didn't really get it. Points?
I don't know if they have double points. It gives 5,000 euros.
I don't remember. But either way, Lenny Martinez indeed attacks relatively early on the Tourmalet to get the KOM points and to gain a gap on the others as well in the process, because my man's cooking. My man's flying up the Tourmalet. So he gets a gap of a minute on the other breakaway riders by the time we hit the top.
Drops O'Connor.
He drops O'Connor, but also O'Connor is then stuck in the second group, but we see other responses, not necessarily on the climb, but in the descent of the Tourmalet, where we see Sepkus flying down the descent, Paris-Bancher gapping the others as well, and that's kind of the situation where it's Lenny Martinez up front, who took the KOM points, Kus and Paris-Bancher descending faster than the others, and then a third group where we had the O'Connors of the world, but also Ineos is stuck in that group, and Simon Yates. So for Ineos, it's Carlos Rodriguez and Arensman, but before we continue about the breakaway, we got to talk about the peloton on the Tourmalet, because quite a few things happened there, and I already told you about Skelmos crashing out, but another pretty important rider abandoned today. Patrick, what shirt are you wearing?
Remco Olympic shirt to honor the Aero missile. Yeah, it was a sad day for Remco. He had to get in the car today. He's clearly not in the shape he's not in his shape, good enough shape to compete here. I don't know if he's sick. It looks like, I don't want to speak for him, but something's wrong. So yeah. It's not normal for him to drop from a group of 60 on the start of the Tourmalet. And he was sitting in third in GC before today's stage started, and that moved immediately, provisionally, Lipovitz into third on GC and into the white jersey this evening, should he not be dropped by anybody else in that competition with the stage coming up. So sad for Remco, Benji. He did win a stage. Merlier's won a few stages. I think this is the end for him in Quick-Step.
I think so as well, but I feel like we already felt the end at Quick-Step for Remco Evenepoel, despite what is happening here. Now, I don't know whether this Tour de France performance impacts the negotiations, etc., but from a grand scheme of things, we've seen this kind of event for Remco Evenepoel before, the Vuelta of maybe 2023. I don't remember it fully, I think it was, where he ended up collapsing also on the Tourmalet stage, and while Almeida was able to also drop early, but keep himself relatively close in GC, Remco completely capitulated out of GC that day, eventually went for stage in KOM. On this one, he cracked on the Tourmalet, and he looked awful, and he went to the team car, they were talking to each other, he waved the motorbike away a few times, which he also did at LBL, I think, on the second last climb. He literally stopped by the side of the road to avoid the motorbike seeing his suffering. I don't blame him necessarily for feeling like that when a motorbike is filming him when he's dropping, but I do think that he needs to get over the fact that when he's dropping, when he's suffering, when he's getting out of the race, when he's falling out of GC, I'm sorry, but people are going to film you. You're in a cycling race, and cycling is entertainment in 2025. So it's logical that a motorbike is there, and I don't know, he shouldn't spend his time and energy on the motorbike then, in my personal opinion. It's easier said than done, but it's not the first time. It's something he needs to get over.
Well, he was on the podium of the Tour last year. He was sitting in the podium before today's stage in the white jersey. Like, the motorbike with 100 Ks to go is going to film you.
Yeah. But also, next to that, I do think there's a sense of, if Lipovitz has this moment, you won't necessarily see a bunch of vultures picking on his grave.
Whoa.
With Remco, you always have that. Every time he has a setback like this, half the internet is suddenly against him.
Well,
and
it comes
I think
with the
that's
territory.
an overreaction, because he still podiumed to the Tour de France last year. And the amount of reactions I saw on the internet of Remco is not a GC rider, stuff like that, I'm sorry, but you're not being a GC rider after podiuming the Tour de France and winning a Vuelta, that is one of the dumbest statements I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, that stuff's obviously ridiculous. But the attention is inevitable, unfortunately. I mean, he's the double Olympic champion. He's the multiple world champion. He did podium this race before. It's not like Lipovitz cracking at 100 Ks to go. Also, Lipovitz, it's not often riders like that do crack at 100 Ks to go. It's not like Ben Healy in 8th getting dropped out of the break or something. It's 3rd place on GC, so it's a big crack. It was building up the last few days, and it opens up the white jersey, or maybe it closes it. Depends on how you see this stage actually playing out. But if you want to reach your goals, maybe your goal is to podium the Tour de France, maybe beat Florian Lipovitz into the white jersey competition, then you're going to need some sort of structured training eventually, unless maybe you got the legs of Tadej Pogacar. I mean, Tadej Pogacar without structured training, he won the Tour de France twice. And so, but with joint cycling, I'm not guaranteeing you can win the Tour de France, podium maybe, but I can guarantee that their training doesn't kill the fun. Structure and fun aren't enemies. With the right kind of plan, you can actually ride stronger, go further, and enjoy it even more. Join gives you structure without sucking the joy out of riding. You can shuffle. I love shuffling the workouts. I love it. Even if I go back to the original one I had, it makes me feel like I'm in charge, and I can pick, because I want to do this workout. Okay, I got to pick this, and then when you've picked the workout, you feel like you have more like ownership of it. It's like, oh no, this is my workout, I wanted to do, so you go and do it. That's how my mind works.
I sometimes want to be like the most annoying user ever, and when it gives me like an easy endurance ride, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna climb Otakam today, and I want to see how you adapt the day after.
Exactly. And that's what Join can do, because it's a flexible tool that lets you move things around, change a ride, skip one entirely if you're busy, and stay in control, because better fitness doesn't take away the fun. It makes every ride more rewarding, and that's where Join gives you the guidance when you want it. So get started using the link in the show notes. Go through and you get a 30-day free trial, no credit card required. Just download the app through our link, and then indeed after the 30 days, you get a discounted annual plan, which is very, very affordable, I would say. So thanks to Join, our show partner, for supporting us throughout the year, not just for our Tour de France coverage. But breakaway, here's the situation. Lenny goes over top of Tourmalet, very cold. He's shivering. He's kind of nervous, very nervous. Like, His car comes alongside him. He panics. He doesn't know the gap. He's looking back as if someone's going to sprint him. The gap's 2 minutes. And then the group behind is not going full. And I'm thinking, you guys better speed up because UAE paced with Pollitt. And UAE were clearly going for the stage. So they were pacing with Pollitt at like a minute 40 behind the main breakaway group. And then we don't see what happens on the descent in the main breakaway group. But Lenny just starts to lose a boatload of time on this descent. He's missing corners. It's foggy. It's wet. I don't know why they're doing more time limit yesterday for no reason in the TT, but this descent wasn't neutralized. Now, because of the GC situation, it was practically neutralized in the GC group, I would say.
Sepp Kuss was not neutralizing it because him and Pare Pancher stormed towards Lenny Martinez, and by the time we hit the next climb, the Col d'Aspin, we've got a 3-rider breakaway, which is Martinez, Pare Pancher, and Kuss. Now, I'm not sure how much of that is Martinez realizing that he can't do everything alone and decides to wait versus how much that is Sepp Kuss absolutely eagling down that descent of the Tourmalet. But behind that, we've got the group of Simon Yates, O'Connor, Johannesson, Arensman, and Rodriguez. And in that group, we've got Arensman pacing for Rodriguez a lot of the time. And now I'm biased because I picked Arensman for the stage. But I feel like if you look at the Tour de France so far, at the strength of Arensman and Rodriguez, I would never in my life force Arensman to ride for Rodriguez. I would let them each ride their own race, no?
Ineos have been way too focused on Rodriguez this tour, and maybe like Rodriguez sucks this year. Like he's got no snap. He looks like he was attacking behind Arensman at a certain point today. I mean, he had no chance to win this stage. I know he's moved into top 10 on GC, but he's on 22 minutes, like 23 minutes after today, and Healy's ahead of him. Like, I think the stage win with Arensman was the bigger chance, but anyway, it didn't matter. But it does seem like, they gave Rodriguez the chance the other day. On Hautacam, he got his chance. It didn't work out. No regrets. What else are you going to use the rouleaus for? No regrets. What they did on Hautacam was good. It just didn't work out. He didn't have the legs. But today, I think you're right, Benji. I mean, maybe Arensman was just stronger. That's why he was pulling. But Arensman also lost the stage, perhaps, on stage 10 because he was too generous and Simon Yates finessed him. So I was worried that was going to happen again today. Now, the problem for Pollitt and UAE on this descent is their whole team drops on the descent except Sivakov because Pollitt can't descend. So they get to the bottom and they also don't want to push it. So they go easy. They drop everyone except Pollitt and Soler. And then they have to wait on the bottom for Pollitt to come back. So Kuss takes and the breakaway take like a minute plus on this descent on UAE, on the Tourmalet descent. And then in the Valley to Aspin, Kuss and Pare Pancher get a big gap on the third group, which is Arensman pacing, like you said, Benji, for Rodriguez mostly. Simon Yates is sitting on. Then on the end of the Aspin, or maybe on the descent, Kuss and Pare Pancher join Martinez. They invested a lot, those two, and it's like a pretty hard valley where Pollitt's killing them. The gap is only 2 minutes 30 at the foot of the Peyresourde, and it's all out the Peyresourde. Like Lenny is just going for KOM, so Lenny, VPP and Kuss, the three slender men, they get caught by group 2. Simon Yates is dropped or sort of struggling as they're coming back to him. And 2:30, that ain't enough. That ain't enough. And UAE got numbers. They got after Pollitt. Now they got Soler, Sivakov, Narvaez, Yates plus Pog. 2:30, forget about it. He needs loads of time at the bottom of Super Bagnières. And the problem is, Sivakov's no good. He starts pacing really, really hard. The gap starts coming down, and then Arensman attacks from the breakaway, and Sivakov completely collapses. And they didn't want Soler to do the descent of Peyresourde because he can't descend. And Pollitt's not there anymore, and they want to save Narvaez and Yates for the final climb. So they wait for Sivakov while Soler paces, and they lose a minute in the last 3Ks of Peyresourde.
It's noticeable, that gap change, but also it also shows the strength that Arensman has, because on his first attack, he doesn't necessarily gap everyone, but then he attacks again just after that, off screen, and then we see the gaps that start to form, and Johannesson being dropped, etc. being dropped. Arensman has 3 minutes 35 by the top of Peresurde. And I'm starting to believe, Patrick, the pity pick is working. I'm starting to believe, and Sivakov's pace just is not working. But in the descent of that Peresurde, that's where the gap starts to lower a little bit again, towards roughly 3 minutes. I gotta add on top of this, while Arensman took the KOM points on top of Peresurde, I think Martinez might have still come second there. He also took the KOM points on Aspin and Tourmalet. I have not looked at the KOM standings, but so Patrick or Luke are going to confirm. But
yeah, Lenny's in.
I think Lenny's in Polka Dot. So that is pretty cool to see. Super Bannière. Final climb is coming. One climb left in this race. And we're now seeing that Arensman is 2 minutes on the group of Sepp Kuss and so forth. So those other breakaway riders have become irrelevant. It's all about Arensman versus Pogacar or other GC riders. That's the battle we see here. 3 minutes is the gap at the foot, and in the peloton I see Marc Soler, Adam Yates, Tadej Pogacar, and Narvaez. That is the UAE team there. Vingegaard is there with Kampenaerts and Jorgensen at the foot. Simon Yates and Kuss are still dropping back from the breakaway, so not isolated yet at this point. And Soler starts pacing, and I see Jorgensen drop. At first I'm like, Jorgensen, I'm sorry, but this is very early. Victor Kampenaerts is still chilling there. And then I also think, okay, what's the point in Jorgensen staying in GC? Like, he might as well try and go in the breakaway or something in the next couple of stages. But I also feel like, on the other hand, I'd rather see him stay longer on this climb with Vingegaard as well if they want to try something, you know? It's like a balance of potential objectives.
Yeah, I guess they got Kuss and Yates up front, but agree, Benji. I mean, who's going to pace if Pogacar's struggling at 5 to 6Ks to go? You got no one to set a pace. What are the odds? Well, it's possible. I mean...
yeah, but...
it's unlikely. Yeah, but Benji, you got to realize, like, the paradigm of Vingegaard is still... He's got 3.5 minutes on third.
Yeah.
So, you still, that if there's the opportunity to win the tour, imagine if there was the opportunity, 1% chance, and he did crash 3 days ago, and you don't have Jorgensen there to set a pace, it makes it less, probably goal attacks and whatever, but indeed, the problem is, Soler's pacing, Arensman is not getting any close, is not coming back anymore, and then Narvaez takes over. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go. When Narvaez moved to the front, I was like, they're gonna take it from 3 minutes to 1:30, and then Pog's gonna go on the steep section, 5Ks to go. And that didn't happen. Narvaez sets like a moderate tempo. It's not really dropping. It's dropping like domestiques, but then Felix Gall gets Callum Scottson to start half-wheeling him, which, by the way, I don't understand. Like, Decathlon just rode next to Narvaez the whole time. And I was like, but Adam Yates is also going to pull after, right? Like, they're not just going to stop. But the gap wasn't really coming down that fast. It goes down to 2:45. I'm thinking, okay, when's it going to start? And then Yates takes over. Slow. And then Gall attacks. So Gall attacks. The gap was at like 2:30. Gall attacks. And they let him go. He gets 20 seconds quickly, and Yates is just setting a tempo. So I think
UAE doesn't care about Gall, but also on top of that,
yeah, but Paul could use him as a lead out.
Yeah, he could use him as a lead out. He could also use him as a jumping plank later if he decides to jump towards Gall, then use Gall as a quote unquote teammate from another team up the road. That kind of vibe, because they both have the incentive to ride then. But on top of that, Arensman having, let's say, 2 minutes 10, 2 minutes roughly with about 5 kilometers to go. That's a large gap to come. And the only rider that can close that, potentially, is Pogacar. If Pogacar goes all out in prime condition, he still can catch Arensman. But it's going to have to be a crazy performance from that point. So I was starting to feel like this was the stage where both UAE might not... Well, on one end, it is understandable if Narvaez slightly ends up at his limit on a 5,000 altitude mountain stage. Like, you would expect that Narvaez would have some limits at some point. So that is understandable. But I also think Pogacar could have won this stage if he tried.
Yeah, exactly. So like the gap wasn't insurmountable. Like if Yates and Narvaez do the lead out, and that's what I don't understand about this stage, Benji. The team of UAE pace all day, full gas, chasing the break. The Yates and Narvaez lead out is there, and Pog can win the stage. So why doesn't he?
I don't know. Like, he said yesterday in the interview that he wouldn't give stages away, but on the other hand, he also doesn't need to win these stages.
No, Benji, don't make your team pace for 4 hours.
I think the team won't care if he ends up winning the Tour de France in a week and a half.
So you think he made his team pace for 4.5 hours? To what?
I don't know, like Johannesson in the breakaway, try and keep that in control. I don't believe that. I don't believe that's the reason. I think it's just control the stage, and then at the end, you don't need to attack. And if Vingegaard goes, then see what happens there. But Pogačar does not need to win these stages.
So why they pace for the stage?
Well, I don't fucking know. Why are you asking me?
Because there has to be a reason he didn't go for it.
Well, maybe he thought, okay, I like Arensman, I like Damon. Maybe he heard you on the podcast yesterday.
I think that's the answer. I think he wanted to make sure Kuss and Yates were caught, and then once they were caught, then UAE also started riding for teams classification. Not a joke. Narvaez did not death pull. He pulled into the back and started riding full to the line for teams classification. And I think Pogačar doesn't mind Arensman and didn't want to just steal it from Arensman if he didn't have to. Because they're like roughly the same cohort. I think they might have done Tour de l'Avenir together or something. Like they would have raced against each other at U23s. So I think that could be the explanation. Because otherwise I don't know why they paced all day. In the end, Pogačar... I don't think
it matters. Tomorrow's a medium mountain stage where UAE doesn't need to do anything. Like, yes, there's some hard mountain stages in the third week, but also if they completely don't do anything, then the other teams also have more domestiques to try something themselves. It's also a balance, you know?
Yeah, and that could be the thing. They don't want Kuss and Yates too far up the road. Also, for teams classification, if you let them win, they take more time for the teams classification. I'm being serious.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but any team that cares about a team classification at the Tour de France, I don't care. I'm sorry. I literally could not care less who wins that classification. Visma by UAE, stop playing around with the team classification. Try to win the race, which UAE is in control now. I don't want to see Visma Bike trying to get a third rider in there for team classification in the next week. Try and win the fucking race.
But you don't think they can win the race?
No, but I don't want to see them ride for a consolation prize either.
The Pogačar, so eventually nothing happens. Felix goal, it's a classic Felix goal move, and no one responds. Kevin Vauquelin's struggling a little bit, so he can't respond. I mean, I don't even know where Felix goal was on GC. Ben Healy's trying to hang on. I mean, there's already huge gaps. And then we see Jonas Vingegaard try with, I can't remember how many kilometers to go, maybe like 3.5 Ks to go. It's reasonably steep, 8.5%. It's not like Angleroo steep, of course, on the Subanier. It's a reasonably regular climb. He gets not a gap, but Pogačar just reels him in when he wants to. Lipovic is hanging just behind. Pogačar gets to his wheel, and then Vingegaard kind of pulls Pogačar pretty much. I think he attacked him one more time because they got across. Pogačar countered Vingegaard to get to goal, and then Pogačar's idea was that goal would then pace them, and it would just shut the stage down. But then Vingegaard went again, and then Pogačar was with him, and then Vingegaard paced him to the line. Lipovic was always on about 8 seconds. Pogačar said after the stage, I didn't have the firepower in me to counter Jonas and give it all to the finish. Chapeau to Arensman. Incredible ride and well-deserved. So I think they were kind of all just tired. Think they were all, it's been 5 hours of racing. It's been 3 mountain stages in a row. I think Pogačar just wanted to get it over and done with. And that was kind of it. And then, Vingegaard rides him in. Arensman wins the stage with actually a decent gap, 1 minute. If you ask me, at the bottom of this climb, with a gap of 3:30, would Aronsman win
Yeah.
with a minute gap? I would have said no way. So Aronsman also does an incredibly strong climb. He wasn't gifted this. It's not a gift. When you do the climb, only 2.5 minutes slower than the GC group, a 16K climb. So incredibly strong performance from him, especially as he did the whole descent solo.
Exactly, and also because he was the Ineos rider that did more for the other Ineos rider during the stage. Like, he was the domestique in the breakaway for Ineos, and he ends up being the strongest rider. Not necessarily a surprise in my opinion, but like, it's a super strong ride all out, and it reminded me of the Damon Arensman is a special kind of character. He's the kind of character where either you get Damon Arensman, diamonds in the legs Damon Arensman, Tour of the Alps Damon Arensman, today Damon Arensman, or you get Damon Arensman who just loses with 1 minute in like a soft hill stage. I feel like there's often no in between. And maybe the in between is P8 Giro rider. But
I mean, this is much more exciting than Jaime Zubeldia 6th in Giro GC.
Yeah, so. I agree. I very much enjoyed this victory of Damon Arensman. I'm happy for him. Yeah, at some point in the next 2 weeks, we'll have a weekly show, most likely, where we'll discuss all the other Ineos news, because there's quite a bit to talk about. But on this specific... Well, by the way, we forgot to talk about the incident in the race. So, we're on the Paris Sur de Climb, if I recall correctly. For some reason, Carlos Rodriguez attacks after in the second group, despite Arensman being up front. We'll ignore that factor, but at that same time, on the side of the road, there's a spectator who is on the road a little bit, and in the last kilometer before the incident, the Ineos car is basically trying to move past the second group and tries to get to Arensman. But on the Paris Sur, the road is narrow, so it's looking for a moment where it can pause next to the riders in a safe manner. And in this specific moment, the car once again is on the right. It starts to slow down because it realizes, okay, I can't pass here. There are spectators on the right side of the riders. And it hits a spectator. So the Ineos team car hits a spectator that is on the road like a proper bowling strike.
Not just clipped, like full hits them.
Yeah, like full on hit. You can break your hip kind of action. That's what it looked like to me. The spectator flops over onto the ground, unfortunately. I hope that person is okay. But when this happened, I'm going to go on a rather unpopular rant here for a second. But the amount of insane comments towards the spectator here, as if she did a massive crime of standing a little bit into the road. I'm sorry, but yes, I agree. Spectators are often standing on the road. On today's route, probably thousands of people were standing on the road a little bit. That doesn't warrant the team car hitting them. A team car that is desperately trying to move up past a group of riders and does so unsafely, in doing so hitting a person by the side of the road. Sorry, but if you're standing on the road, it's not an excuse for the team car of Ineos to hit you. And sometimes I feel like there's very little empathy to this person. Imagine if you go to a cycling race with your mother, who isn't necessarily the thorough cycling fan, and she makes the mistake of standing on the road a little bit too much. She doesn't see the car coming. She gets hit by a car. She breaks her hip, and the internet is after her as well for standing a little bit on the road, which half the people on the entire climb are also doing. I'm sorry, but I think there's an overreaction against a spectator here. I think the team car is also at fault.
Ban all cycling fans on the road is what I say. The
you want to go back to COVID days.
That was the best. Loved it. Yeah. Also, it's a major sports event, one of the biggest sports events in the world, and people get in the middle of the sports event and can affect the riders, and they should be aware that there's a race going on and not enter the course. So, yeah, it's tricky. Like, should the Ineos car have to move around spectators because they were also just driving in a straight line following the riders? That's the other side of it.
We're also in the last 1.5 kilometers of the second last climb of the day. I'm sorry, but barrier it off.
Maybe barrier it off. I know I can understand. Maybe they're trying to get across to Arensman to feed him. He's also going across to win the stage, but he does win the stage. Pogačar takes second. Sprints. Vingegaard puts him on 4 seconds. Felix goal is his anticipation works. He's on 119. Pogačar 108. Vingegaard 112. Goal 119. Lipovic 125. and Only a big gap. So 6th, he's on 209. Healy 246 with Roglic. So Healy actually has a very good day today, I would say, for top 10 GC. And he was in the break and got dropped out of the break. So Healy was... That's a really surprising result, I got to say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Healy being 7th guy in the GC group on this finish is crazy. Roglic 8th. Johannesson 9th on 259. He was in the break. Vogtland 308. Carlos Rodriguez 315. GC. Pogacar extends his gap 413. Lipovic moves into 3rd with a big gap. He's on 753. He's got 1 minute and 25 on Oscar Only now. That's also for white jersey. Vogtland is a minute behind Only in 5th. He's got 13 seconds on Roglic. Felix Gall moves up 2 spots to 7th on 12 minutes. Johannesson 12:33. Healy 18:41. Rodriguez 22:57 is in 10th. Holy shit. So, GC, let's say right now, Lipovic, the front 3 look the strongest and their spots don't change. I think Vogtland, Gall, Johannesson, Healy, even Only, they're all, if the tour ended today, they'll take it. They take their spot. They're happy with it.
I think so as well. I reckon so as well. But just in general, if I look at this top 10 of the stage, then I look at the top 10 where a lot of the GC riders are in the order I expected it. We've seen Roglic be better in the time trial yesterday, but then on today's road race and 2 days ago on the road race as well, he looked weaker on the final climb and he loses quite a bit of time. Lipovic is also a big winner if I look at that top 10, and he is more securing that podium position now with Only losing quite a bit of time to him. And I like GC wise, Felix Gall 7th after, I just clicked on a random button in my own entire GC to switch, but Felix Gall being 7th in GC now, moving up 2 positions. That's partially because Skelmoser crashed out and Remco dipped out of the race. Ben Healy moving up, like you said, is also partially because of those reasons. There's multiple riders moving up because of those riders dropping out of the race, but that's part of the sport. And despite Kevin Vogtland actually dropping early on the climb, that leads him to being 16 GC now. So I think there's a lot of riders that just might have had a bad day, but because they moved up in GC because of the other riders dropping out, they should still feel happy about today. That makes sense?
Yeah, it's like people are getting shelled out the arse, just getting killed like 4Ks into a climb, and they're moving up GC spots. And it's crazy. And the gaps are so big that like 9th on GC can easily go in the break. And it just depends if someone, like Johannesson went in the break today, and listen, no one could pace faster than UAE anyway. It's not like EF could have paced faster, but no one cared. And like Decathlon didn't pace to bring back Johannesson. It was crazy. Like,
is it because they saw UAE starting to pace and they were like, we don't need to do anything?
Exactly. Like, what you're not going to pace faster than Pollitt. So why? It looks under control from UAE. So why do their work for them? I think in terms of points jersey, Pogacar, due to the not winning the stage and it being a 20-pointer, he actually loses, he's now 28 points behind Jonathan Milan. Pogacar was in position to contest the intermediate sprint and then didn't. He braked almost to let riders ahead of him, which was a shame because it would have been funny. Also, because I got to say, Trek have been doing a ham-fisted job of this. Like, their green has been a bit all over the place. Like Milan trying to get in the break himself and riding tempo solo at the start. And
that's Pedersen behavior.
Yeah, but he ain't Mats Pedersen.
Exactly.
He don't have that engine, I don't think. If he does, then everyone should be worried for Flanders next year. You see him on the qual. So that's still very much in a live battle. We'll get to tomorrow's preview. We'll also preview the IS there. In terms of KOM, like Benji said, Lenny is leading that now, but he's only got 8 points ahead of Pog. I think Pog also not taking the HC victory today helped Lenny. Aronsman's on 48 points. Youth jersey, Lipovic takes it now 125 ahead of Only, 228 ahead of Vogtland. I hope that's still a decent battle. And then teams classification, Visma 1348 ahead of UAE. And then tomorrow's stage, we have a transition stage. I think so, from Muret to Carcassonne. Normally, this is a stinking hot transition stage, but I think the weather is quite mild due to the rain at the moment. Let me check Carcassonne weather. Yeah, tomorrow. 29. That's cold for this time of year. There, I'm telling you, like when I have to drive back through Carcassonne, it's fucking horrendous in summer, like 40. So 29 is practically winter there, and it's 170 k's, rolling terrain, intermediate sprints on top of a 2.4k 3% hill. I think Milan should be all right for that, frankly. Then there's a 1.7k 6% climb, a 6k 5.7% climb, both Cat 3s. Geez, that's a soft Cat 3, that first one, Benji. And then there's a Category 2. Category 2, 3k's 9%, the Pas du Sang hill. That's 54k's from the finish. And then the climb keeps going up for a fair bit. From the top of there is rolling descent, big boy, big ring descent for 40k's. This is an Asgreen, Moritz, Sweeney, Pollitt, Oliveira special, right?
Quinn Simmons wins.
Ah, yes.
That's my pick for this one because he's looked very strong in the last 2 weeks. And he's had a few moments where he was close to a stage victory. I feel like this is the kind of stage where he has his capabilities climbing that is enough to keep him close on the climb. The Pas du Sang climb is steep and long, but I reckon he can, whichever big climber is in there, he can stay relatively close. But also on top, there's still terrain. I think when we did the preview for this stage, I might have mentioned the Rochefoucauld, which it's not the same climb, but in the same sense, it's got that extension over the top that still keeps on climbing a little bit. Not as steep as the actual proper climb, but it's still like 4% or something for like 5 to 10 kilometers. So that adds to Simmons as well, I expect, over like a pure light climber. Descent to the finish, like with a flat finish. I feel Quinn Simmons for this. Other candidates are again Ben Healy. I don't know how easy he'll get into the breakaway, but I expect it to be possible, to be honest. And who do you have for the stage win?
Ooh.
Gregoire?
Do you reckon they free Narvaez?
I don't think so.
Gregoire, yeah, you either gotta be an attacker or you gotta be fast, because it's not that well. The climb is hard, but it's 60 k's from the finish. I see a Van der Poel standoff and a late attacker win, so I do. It's a very nice Quinn Simmons pick. Can Ben Healy get in the break?
I think so.
He's got 6 minutes margin behind Johannesson. I'm looking at EF. They've been too active all race, too good.
The Sweenster?
The Sweenster, yeah. I'm going to go with Harry Sweeney. I'm going with Sweeney. This is his stage. They would have circled it. They'll be in with Paulus. Paulus also can win a sprint. They'll be with Paulus, Volgren, Sweeney, Asgreen. They're going to stack the break.
If all of them are in the breakaway, how likely is it that Sweeney ends up being the rider they go for, though? That is the only downside.
Oh, he can attack.
Yeah, he can fuga de la fuga, but I don't know. They usually just keep it together and try and force Healy over to break it up on the last climb. But
actually, I don't think Healy will get in. I don't think Healy will get in.
Okay.
So yeah, I think they'll give it to the other guys. And it's the last stage before the second rest day. Mild, not as I said, 29 degrees not mild, but it could be hotter. The climb will be decisive. That 3k 9% climb. I think Milan's going to try getting the break.
Okay.
How far behind is the other guys?
When it comes to
how many points the stage is?
I'm sorry, but I've assumed it was over for the last week and a half.
Is this a 50-pointer?
Let me check. You're going to have to give me a second here.
If this is a 50-pointer, Benji, and MVDP gets in the break without Milan, takes 20 plus 50.
My notes say 50 points.
Okay, if Van der Poel gets in the break without Milan and wins the stage, he'll be in green. That's why he's still been going for the intermediates. And then you have the Champs-Élysées stage.
I still think Milan wins green.
Yeah, Trek cannot allow that. Like Trek, in break formation, Trek will not allow MVDP in or Bini in without Milan, because that is the nightmare scenario. Because then he can literally take a 70-point delta on Milan and take green after this stage. So I think the green battle will inform break formation quite a lot, which will make it worthwhile watching the whole stage. And then I dare say a Fuga will end the stage with 45Ks to go. It'll be Simmons or Sweeney. That's our picks. Benji's got to drill some stuff. Maybe he's got a screwdriver ready.
Mate, I got to drill my generational run of predictions on the wall, mate. I do feel like I'm less confident in tomorrow's stage, though. I had more confidence on Ardensmont for today.
Tomorrow could be like, that 50 guys wrote on their wall in December to go for this stage. And so it's a big pool of riders that will go for it. Abrahamsen. X will try to go in with multiple guys. Hulgaard, where's he been? So anyway, thanks for listening as always to the recap of Superbahn, and we'll see you with the recap of the transition stage tomorrow. Ciao, ciao, ciao.